The church, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the regular Army chapel. That would hold 160 people, easily almost 200. And this was, the Carlsbad Air Base was only temporary during the war. It was for training bombardiers. And they had masses there and marriages there and so forth, both Catholic and Protestant. And so when it came for the bidding, we all, about 6 churches in Carlsbad, had their, wrote to Washington to their senator to get the church. And of course, fortunately, we had a good Senator Chavez out of Albuquerque who was there, a senior, and our local politician, sheriff, was the Democrat, and he knew Chavez. He worked with us and with Father Stanislaus, who was then in charge, and we won on 6. They gave the church after they read our letters, because they commanded in that you had to use the church for 10 years as a church. After that, you didn't have to, and so forth. We can guarantee that because they knew well the Catholic Church would not die. So we got to the word, and that made a new problem. So then he put me in charge of arranging for the moving of the church. And he did the preliminary work of finding the contractor that was to assist to lay the foundation and so forth. But then with finding a mover, with Albuquerque mover wanted 6,000, and one of our fathers who worked over in Hobbs, New Mexico, in the oil field, he said, I think I can get you a crew of the oil workers over there, a family that had his son and worked together that did a lot of moving of big stuff. And so they agreed to do that for $2,000. So they said that we had to take care of arranging the building before we moved the church. That meant we had to take off the tower because of the lines we had to go through, and we had to take all the benches out and store them, and also we had to reinforce the interior of the building up and down to get the roof against the floor, so that when they put the wheels on it, the floor wouldn't come up. And we had, another father and I, we worked on that until we got that. And then they took over to moving, and of course we were there to observe, and I had to get the okay of at that time, the Continental Airlines were just coming into Carlsbad Airport. Had to get permission for them to use the apron when we moved the building out from the base, to move on the apron and into the open country. And then the police, the public service company, and the telephone company, because you were going to either take down their lines or cut them. And then the local sheriff got us one of the county graders to go along with us to level out the road here and there, where in the open country. And then on top of that, he gave us about 3 of our boys that were in jail. He gave them a Jeep and a pot of coffee and donuts and a hot dog to come along with us to take down the fences and put it back up again. And so we had to move possibly 18 miles more or less. And when we left the airport, we messed up the driver of the unit pulling it. He messed up hitting the bar ditches on an angle, and the building rocked. We lost 1/3 of the rubber under it, straddling the Carlsbad El Paso highway. So my partner, Father Donald, was with me. I said, we have to go home and change clothes, get back and help these guys, because we had to get on the thing to raise the building, and they had to pull the wheels out that had busted the axles and so forth. So we had only, we lost 1/3 of the rubber under it. And so, and also had pulled out the rear end of the system of the truck pulling the thing. And So they had, there are two other trucks had to pull it off of the highway into the field and sit there for a day until they got another truck to pull it. So the operator went over and leased a truck which was bigger than ever. It had 16 gears forward in this truck because it was an oil field where they would just move it by inches, and when they equipment on these towers and whatever. Anyway, we got started, and they took another day and a half to reach our destination. But before we got there, we had to cross. Also, I had to get permission of the U.S. government to cross a irrigation ditch which belonged to them, which had a concrete bottom, and it only had one individual bridge across for a car to go. We had to build another bridge, and not to avoid cracking the and so one of the Knights of Columbus members of Carlsbad knew it was a friend of the president of the U.S. Potash Company, so we got 200 railroad ties from the U.S. Potash Company to Tinkertoy build a bridge across this canal. And Father Donald and I did the building of that, just handmade, and make sure that everything was laid so that there wouldn't be any cracking. Then we had to plank it out, and we come to that bridge and got across that. And by that time we had to cut the lines of the telephone company, and we had to wait till they run lines down on the ground and before they did the cutting. And had irrigation, dirt irrigation ditches, which we filled with the ties to go into the cotton field and move into where the church was to be located. So after they located the church, then we had someone come in to build piers underneath there to keep it up. Then we went in to level the floor, and one would be down crawling on his belly and sheared up under the pillars to make the floor level. And then we worked on the tower and hung across and all that stuff. So we were more carpenters and builders for several weeks before we had the blessing of the church.